Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Polar Opposites. I'm your host, Anam's Compendium, and joined with me is my good friend and co-host, that boy Aqua.
Hello.
You sound very happy to be here.
I am happy to be here. I've missed it.
Yeah.
We haven't recorded an episode in over almost 3 weeks now because we've both been incredibly busy. I'm in the full swing of final season, so my time is limited.
It's been, as the kids would say, a long-ass time. Like a very long time.
It's been a hot minute, yo.
Yeah. Foshizi.
That's what the kids would say. You know, I was listening to another podcast today, and they were talking about how Gen Z, as in me, maybe not you, but definitely me, have been like getting old before they get old. Like Gen Z's like to reminisce over shit that happened like 2 years ago.
You know what? I think I've noticed that same thing.
And I noticed that I do that. Where I'm like, so I turned 22 in less than a month, and I keep saying, I'm like, I don't want to get older. Damn it. 22, that's too old for me. And it's like, no, it's not really. It's like, I feel like 30 is when you should be like, birthdays, you know?
Yeah, I agree. Uh-huh.
I'm sorry.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Am I keeping that in?
Yeah, why not? I mean, yeah, it was a fucking gnarly burp. I'm not gonna lie. It was quite...
You're fucking stupid.
That was like a 7 out of 10. That was like cartoonishly loud. It had girth to it.
It didn't sound real.
Yeah, that's why it was great.
It was awful. I hate you.
Anyways, so Nick, how are you today?
I'm doing well. I have finally got some free time on my hands because I have just finished my upcoming video. My video on Soul Hackers. You know, a niche RPG from the 90s that got a re-release for the 3DS like 10 years later.
Yeah.
And I'm making that video because the sequel's coming out, but I got it done, and now I can safely say I'm ahead of schedule, because I mentioned this a couple of times on here, that I was looking for like an editor, and I finally found one. I found a guy, really nice man. I've known him for a bit before we even worked together.
Yeah, he's been like around for a while.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was great working with him, and I hope we can continue again. So now I can safely say I'm ahead of schedule, and that like never happens for me.
That, and it seemed like there were no hiccups with the editing.
None.
It was just kind of good
yeah.
from the get-go.
Yeah, I just watched it back, changed a couple of things that I personally thought would have looked better, and then that's it. It was very smooth. And after your horror story, I was expecting the worst, to be honest.
I was expecting the worst, too.
And that's no offense to him. He's a great guy. He does good work. But it's just like those self-doubts you always have about anything, like when trying something new.
Oh, yeah.
So how about you, Nolan? How have you been lately?
Oh, awful.
Awful.
My latest video is a 10 out of 10.
Oh.
And it wasn't a dying light where it came back up after a week. It's like, it's dead in the water. But my Assassin's Creed Black Flag video, which initially underperformed, is now starting to pick up.
That's
so I think,
good.
you know, the scales of the algorithm are tipping in just different ways right now.
The judgment scales of YouTube.
I'm also horrible because finals. I have a lot of papers I need to be writing. I spent all day today writing a paper for school instead of talking about video games, which is just inherently the lamest thing ever. But I do want to bring up that we are actually quite lucky because we have almost crossed 1,000 views on the Tony For You episode, which I think is really fun.
For like this out of nowhere podcast, that's pretty good.
Yeah. And I was just finished telling Nick that I've been promoting the podcast in my videos, but in each case I have forgotten to link it in the description. So yeah. Oops.
You know, I made sure to include the link, like just so close to the top that I'm allowed to.
Yeah, I'm gonna edit that after this episode.
Yeah,
but I've been okay. I've just been working on some scripts. I've tried to do 2 scripts at once. Like, I tried to have my main script and then my side script, but I'm getting so into the side script that it's actually, like, it's messing up the amount of time I give to either. And now I'm just sort of doing half of each, which is not good because my editor has not received a video to edit in over a month, and he kind of relies on me as a consistent client to, you know, pay rent, pay bills, and whatnot. So I'm really feeling under the gun with that. But he knows. He's not pressuring or anything, but I do want to figure it out. I want to bring something up. I haven't run this by you, Nick, but I'm just going to do it because, I have 50% majority. I want to start introducing something called the question of the day or the question of the episode, where we'd actually love to hear from you guys. And the reason I say that is because I like reading out people's messages on the podcast. We read out a guy named Ryan Bugle. We read out his message on episode 7, which the idea for that episode came from him. And so we'd like to hear your thoughts on some things, and we'd just like to get a little discussion going. So my question that I'm going to ask you, Nick, and then also put out to anyone listening is, what is your favorite, or, in your opinion, the most underrated original soundtrack to a video game?
One of the best soundtracks I've heard in recent memory, not Persona, like some people might just assume.
Mm-hmm.
The World Ends With You has some great fucking music. It is so good. The original game especially, like not Neo has a good soundtrack too, but I think the first game has so many great songs to it. It has such like a unique style, a very modern urban style that you didn't really get out of most RPGs. Like it sounds fantastic. And it's crazy to think that they managed to cram all that into like a DS cart. There's so many different songs in that game. There's like 10 battle themes, multiple overworld themes, just like random cutscene songs. They all sound great.
Yeah. My favorite would probably be like Persona 4 or 5 or some shit. But I think as far as recent soundtracks are really good, Neon White has an excellent soundtrack. It's a really cool game. It's a first-person kind of speedrunner thing, but that has an excellent soundtrack. And I would say the most underrated for me is Gravity Rush 2 and 1. If I can say both of them, I'm going to cheat and say both of them. Both those games have incredible soundtracks. And I would say Raven's theme from Gravity Rush 2 is probably my favorite, in my top 10 favorite video game songs of all time.
That is a great theme.
But I just want to bring up a question. There's a fucking stampede above me. Okay, it's fine. I'm going to shut the door. Give me a sec. I wish I had a broom so I could, like, poke the top of my ceiling to say, hey, shut up, I'm doing something. Mom, I'm working!
It's funny, especially when you have a job that relies almost exclusively on your voice.
Yeah, and yet people are like, oh yeah, I'm just going to play the fucking drums upstairs. Surely nobody down below, who, by the way, I notify people when I'm doing something. Like, I told my parents last night, I was like, hey, at around 6 o'clock tomorrow, I have some evening commitments. I got to record something. Could we just have a little bit of quietness in the house? And they're like, yep, of course. And then they don't fucking do it. and here's what pissed me off. So for a little bit during COVID, and actually still now, my stepfather was working from home. And it was really cool because he was working in the basement with me. And so we had a little bullpen. And he would go on calls, and my mom would vacuum upstairs on her days off, or she would like make a bunch of noise. And she's one of those people, when she watches TV, she wants it to be like the fucking cinematic IMAX, loud as hell kind of thing.
The surround sound setup.
My dad's like that too, by the way. I remember when I was a kid, I was watching TV, and it was just at a perfectly fine volume. And he's like, hey, why don't you turn it up? I was like, no, I can hear it perfectly fine. He's like, but don't you want to hear everything? And he was trying to explain to me how nice it is, but I've never understood listening to stuff loud. I mean, music, yes, but TV, I don't get it. Anyways, she's making all this noise, and eventually I go upstairs because I'm getting pissed off. And I'm like, hey, you know he's on a call right now, right? And she's like, oh, well, it has noise-canceling headphones. And I thought, oh my God, that's not how it works. Just because I can't hear it doesn't mean my microphone can. And so you know what I think it is? I think it is some people just don't understand. And so I don't think they're trying to be assholes. I think they just don't get it. Anyways, back to what I was trying to transition into before I went down a big side tangent, which I've never done on the podcast, by the way.
No, never.
Ryan Bugle actually left another comment, and he said, here are some questions. Obviously, you use your channels to talk about games, but what are some games that you love that you couldn't really talk about or weren't sure how to make a full video on, or you didn't think it would get the viewership to warrant a full video? And for me, I've said this a few times, the Skate series I love, but until recently, I didn't really know how I would tackle something like that. But since I do, I've sort of figured it out now. I'm kind of working on a video for that. But my new answer would be Minecraft. I love Minecraft, and that's like been kind of actually like a real cornerstone of gaming for me growing up. But I don't have any in-depth thoughts on it. It's just one of those things that kind of, it scratches that sandbox itch for me, and it makes me, it's a very relaxing game, and I like it a lot. There's a lot of games like that, but I would say that's the most significant that I don't even want to make a video on it. Like, I don't care about talking about Minecraft. It's glorified Legos. I love it. And there's not much more I can say than that. What about you?
You know, it's funny you mentioned Minecraft because I would say Terraria. Because Terraria is a massive game, and I've tried looking for some in-depth videos on it, but I haven't really seen any that are striking the chord that I'm specifically looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And I've thought a couple of times, like, you know, I think it would be really cool to make a video like dedicated to Terraria, talking about its incredible progression loop and how it always encourages you. Like, it's so addicting. You just want to play, you want to get more shit, which lets you fight even bigger and badder enemies. It's really cool. It's a great game. But I don't think people who watch my videos really care. Another one is, for a very long time, I've always wanted to talk about No More Heroes.
Oh, yeah.
And other Suda games. But I'm more so still trying to find a way to properly do it. Because for those who are unaware, I actually tried to make a video on this. I'm not sure if I even talked about it. I know I told you about it.
I've read it. Or I've read what you had.
Yeah, he read a little bit of what I had. And by the way, what you read is completely different than what I want to do now.
Really? Like, your opinion has changed that much?
It's not even that the opinion has changed. It's more so the way I want to structure it.
Oh.
But I really like the No More Heroes series, and despite its very goofy nature, it's actually a very clever game about the commentary of the media we consume, and how, like, casual violence is integrated in it, and the dangers of obsessing over fiction. It's very cool. That first game is, like, way fucking smarter than people give it credit for, and I would love to talk about it, but I'm not sure. There's a couple issues. One, demonetization. That game is very unad friendly. If you know, you know for sure. The second one is
there a way to turn blood off or to make it not red?
I'm pretty sure in Europe, instead of blood, it was actually black mist.
Oh.
At least I think that's what it was. I know there's a copy of the game that's censored like that, but I also kind of think that it ultimately devalues what it's trying to say.
Ooh.
Like, I'm of the opinion that when you start changing and censoring certain things, it can leave a pretty noticeable impact on something that's trying to be more than just a piece of entertainment. And obviously, I encourage like these kind of settings, or at the very least a warning, so that people who are sensitive to those kind of things don't have any sort of thing triggered that makes them uncomfortable without being fully aware of what they're getting into.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there was that one game that included an option to skip a very graphic scene. I forget what it's called, and I'm also being very vague. It had something to do with
Modern Warfare 2?
That's one of them, yeah.
They gave you the option to skip No Russian.
Yeah, that's one of them. And I appreciate those options, but I'm also the one who likes to experience something in its original vision, right?
Yeah.
And I personally think that removing the blood from No More Heroes would have a very sizable impact on its message.
And even in other contexts, like, just because I know Modern Warfare 2, No Russian is an integral, like, turning point in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also I don't know, we'll not go into that rabbit hole. But yes, I agree that sometimes, even if something is graphic, it is graphic for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, No Russian was to show that, I mean, it's the bad guy. Like, that's the whole point of the mission on the surface, is to show that, like, the bad guy is actively killing people and whatnot. But then there's greater implications in the plot that I won't get into because rabbit hole.
Yeah. And that's also not to say that there aren't times where games are exploitive in their nature to shock people. But I personally think No More Heroes is very tasteful about it, despite its outwardly gratuitous nature.
Or even when it's not necessarily tasteful, like, it has a reason to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not there just for shock.
Yeah, and I would absolutely love to talk about that game, but a couple of roadblocks might need
That'd be a good Patreon goal.
It'd be it would have to be something I won't have to worry too much about my income about. And I know that might sound like, oh, you're just doing it for money. No, it's just that I gotta pay rent, right?
And also, that's not a fair criticism. To tell a YouTuber whose full-time job is being like, oh yeah, you're doing it for money. Yeah, no shit. Money makes the fucking world go around, dude. I'm not gonna sit here on some artsy fartsy bullshit and be like, no, I'm not gonna put any ads on my videos because I wanna yada yada yada, artistic intent, whatever. And I know there's some YouTube channels that do that. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I have one in my mind that I can't remember. But I know that they say They don't want to put ads on their videos because they have a stable job. They don't need YouTube as a second income. And I understand that. And obviously, if I could make the same amount of money from YouTube without having to do sponsorships or ads, of course I'd do it. But at the same time, you got to make a living somehow. And this is especially the case when those same people that will get mad at you for doing shit for the money will get mad that you're not covering like obscure game that only one guy in Indonesia played, or when you're not releasing a brand new hour-long critique every day kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think it just all plays into the unrealistic expectations of a YouTuber.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff I'd love to talk about, but I just can't. Like, I'm a huge fan of Ratchet and Clank, and I would love to give that thing like a whole retrospective, but I just can't. My channel's not large enough.
It's not there yet.
Yeah.
I feel like after a few more years, once you have a more dedicated fan base that'll watch anything you put out, I think then you could give it a try.
Yeah.
Because then you'll have a core audience that'll boost the video enough that other people from the Ratchet community will come in and look at it. I just don't know if we're there yet, but who knows?
I hate to interrupt you. I'd fucking love to talk about God Hand.
Oh, yeah, that's a cool looking game. Never played it.
God Hand is sick. I'm a huge fan of action games. Some of you might know. God Hand, right up my alley. I love that game. It is sick. Anyways, enough about me. What about you, Nolan? Anything else? Anything other than Skate?
No, none that I can think of off the top of my
well,
head.
There we go.
Because I'm very lucky in that my bread and butter, which is open world games, is mostly the bread and butter of my audience as well. Like, I mean, you think about like Infamous, Spider-Man, Batman, Assassin's Creed, all of those series or those kinds of videos perform well on my channel, and they're also the ones that I love playing the most. If I had to take a pick of something that's not Skate, and this is not because I don't think it will get views or because I don't know how to critique it, but I would love to make a video on GTA 5, especially GTA Online as well. I have a lot of love for that series, the series and the game specifically. And it was also GTA 5 was like, I say Minecraft was a cornerstone of my childhood. GTA 5 is a cornerstone of my teenage years. And the only thing stopping me is that it is such a big game that I don't know how I could handle all of it. I don't know how I could comprehensively do all of that. And I don't know if I could handle making a 3-hour video or working on a product or a piece of media for so long and getting engaged in it for so long to actually make it good. Because something you might notice about some of my longer videos is once I hit the hour mark, I start to trail off. Like in Dying Light, I was really specific about what I liked and didn't like about the main story. But once I got into the final bits of DLC, I'm sort of burnt out on it. And I feel like I just want to almost get it over with. Like the Hell Raid DLC from Dying Light, I hated that so much. And I also played it at the end of everything else. So it's already, I'm so done playing this game. I've played it so much. And for me specifically, when I make a video on something, I find that I get really engrossed in it for weeks. I was walking home the other day and in my head, I was thinking, I really like the way Skate 3 does this level design. And it's like fucking insane. Like I think I'm a bit of a psychopath, but I can't disconnect my brain from whatever I'm working on currently. And so if I got to work on a video for longer than a month, that's when I find I start getting really tired of it. And so GTA 5, I don't know how I could do that unless I split it up into parts, but I don't really want to do that. There's also the unfortunate reality that, I'm okay spending 3 weeks on a video to have it bomb. Like, I mean, obviously I don't prefer it, but I'm financially stable enough that I can deal with that. I'm not financially stable enough to take 3 months to work on a video just for nobody to watch it. You know what I mean? And again, if I was one of those fortunate YouTubers that was earning like, some people are earning like $2,000 a month on Patreon, then yeah, that'd be a different story. But that's not where I'm at right now. And so GTA 5 is just a beast that I don't think I can mentally tackle yet, just by pure size alone. And I think a similar thing would go for something like Skyrim, but I've actually have a lot of in-depth thoughts on Skyrim already. So who knows? Yeah. So I don't want to stay on this for too long, because this next one is a great question, and let's try and make it brief so we can get to the real topic of the episode. This is again from Ryan Bugle. He asks, what are some channels that inspire you or that you currently look up to? So maybe just give one channel currently that you find you look up to and you're inspired by.
I really look up to creators like, some call me Johnny, huge inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
Dude's got plenty of drive, uploads frequently. He goes into enough depth while also having plenty of humor in there. His style, super good. And I don't take direct inspiration from his style, but more so his work ethic. I want to get to the point where I can make videos at the pace he can. Like, I think that's a good goal.
I completely agree. I actually don't watch a ton of video essay people anymore. Like, the channels I look up to the most are like fucking Super Mega or like some kind of a channel like that. But I think as far as video essay stuff goes, I would say a definite inspiration would be totally no, because I try not to take inspiration from other video like essay creators because I don't want to accidentally rip them off at all. But I would say definitely the ones that I enjoy watching the most would be Joseph Anderson, White Light, and oh my god, there's one more that I'm not thinking of. Oh no. I've been really enjoying Radical Soda lately.
Mm-hmm.
He has some good Pokemon videos I've been kind of working my way through. King K is also great. Like, kind of all the people you could think of off the top of your head, those are the ones I'm into. I'm a basic bitch. I don't know any of the up-and-comers yet.
I don't know any of the up-and-comers yet, but if I find a good essayist, I'll watch them for sure.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Hammers makes great videos, and I think he has 40,000 subscribers, so he's established, but he's not one of the major guys yet. He'll get there. But he covers a lot of like old school PS2, PS1 games, and so his videos just kind of have this like nostalgic coziness to it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're cool videos. I've talked to him before. He's a nice guy. I like him.
I saw this channel recently where they just focus mostly on specific aspects of Sonic games. He talked about one of the most infamous levels of Sonic Lost World for like 20 minutes. It was like one of the second to last stages, about like it had something to do with like rail grinding and dodging bomb carts.
Haven't played it.
He talked about it for like 20 minutes. It was such a well-made video.
I always get jealous of YouTubers that can talk about like the most boring shit. Like fucking Emperor Lemon makes a 40-minute video about a new Coke, and my eyes are glued to the screen the entire time. And I finished watching. I'm like, how did he do that? Also, one of the most underrated essay channels right now is Golden Boat. Golden Bolt.
Golden Bolt is great.
He's really good. Sorry, Golden Boat. Fuck
Golden
me.
Boat. Golden Bolt's great. I actually I found him because he made a Ratchet 3 video. That's how I was introduced to him. And
I found him because of his Tools of Destruction video.
Yeah, that guy puts a lot of research into his stuff. He
Yeah.
goes over so many like behind the scenes aspects, like shit I didn't even know about.
Yeah.
It makes you think about games differently.
Oh yeah.
Like, just providing that extra bit of context can completely change the way you look at something. And I think he's doing a great job at fairly representing stuff like that.
100%. So the next topic we have on our list is any news / stuff we're working on. But do we want to just skip that and get into?
Yeah, I think we've been
topic?
talking enough. We don't really have
need
anything else going on. We're just fucking working.
Yeah. So the topic for this episode is obviously cons, conventions. PAX, Anime Expo. There's actually a convention going on right now. It's some anime convention. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head.
Is that still going?
No, it's a different one from the Anime Expo, I think. So I have a question for you. What were your thoughts of conventions growing up?
It's funny. As a wee lad, I thought conventions were the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
Not because I wanted to go see specific like venues, like specific events there. I just wanted to go and like buy old games from like vendors.
Oh.
Genuinely. For
me, it was like the idea of, because at conventions a lot of YouTubers would have panels. Like I know Rooster Teeth has had panels for years. Game Grumps have done panels before, and the Creatures have done panels. And as a kid growing up watching those guys, I was thinking, that's amazing. I would love to go see these guys in real life, get a photo with them. And there were other things like games would get revealed at like PAX East or something like that, or E3. And I thought that was such a cool idea. And I think I honestly idealized it a lot in my head more than actually, because I never looked into going because I knew that it would be expensive, and I have never liked traveling. So it's always kind of been off the table, even as a young lad. But they definitely felt like this perfect, we're going to go see all these cool games, meet a bunch of cool YouTubers and whatnot. And so that leads into my next question. Have you ever wanted to go to a con before?
I would say E3. And do you really count that as a convention?
I'd say I would.
Do you count that as? Because I think E3 was so radically different from something like Anime Expo and all that for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure both you and I really want to go to the E3.
I'd be more excited to go to PAX.
Any reason for that?
Just the videos I've seen online, it seems like it's a little more grassroots, and because E3 feels like an event, like it feels like a show. Well, it is a show. But PAX seems more like Anime Expo in the way that it's just kind of people getting together. There's different venues. You can go try a game or something like that, or see what people are doing. And yeah. But I would be down to go to E3 or something like that. I think if I was ever going to go to a convention, I'd want to go with you or somebody else who's equally as invested in it as me. But of course, I think the thing about cons that people don't think about is that we see a lot of YouTubers, they'll post videos of, hey, we went to Anime Expo, we went to blah, blah, blah. And they make it seem like it's all fun and games, but I feel like in reality, and let me lay it out here. I've never been to a convention, but I feel like in reality, it is a little more boring than that. And I think there are some people who get caught up in this idea that you're going there to meet people. And, you know, we've seen stories online of, I went to a convention to meet my favorite YouTuber and all I got was a photo. And so I don't know if people are thinking that they're going to go there and like get dinner with their favorite YouTuber, or that they're just going to be able to show up at E3 and Insomniac will be like, yes, you want to play our unreleased video game that we have not announced to the public yet? Like, I think there's, because
yes, sir,
you
Mr.
see things
Ted
like,
Price.
Pardon?
It said, yes, sir, Mr. Ted Price.
Yeah, it's like, you see shit, when Spider-Man PS4 was coming out, there were, I think it was PAX, or it might have been E3, they had a demo area where you could actually play the game for a bit.
I think that was E3.
Yeah, and that was really cool. But nobody really does that. Or not nobody, but that doesn't happen as often as I think people think.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I would like to go to a con, but it would have to be, one, on a very strict budget, because I don't want to spend that much money on traveling, which I already don't like doing. That, and it would have to be something that I really want to go to. Not just, I wouldn't want to go just to, like, fucking get a picture with a YouTuber or some shit.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when a lot of it is streamed online, but we'll get to that later. So what do you think are some of the pros and cons of cons?
That's a weird way of putting it.
Oh, I specifically put it that way.
I would say that the pros of just going to a convention in general is probably meeting, like, a lot of people who are interested in the same shit that you are.
Yeah, like-minded individuals.
Yeah. And it's different than just talking to some random online, because it's face-to-face. There's a bit of a surreal feeling to that you just don't get anywhere else. And of course, there's the meme that, oh, they don't shower, which is true. Yeah. That is a really awful, awful thing that happens, and I believe that is the first con to going to conventions. But just meeting new people that happen to be fans of, like, the same anime or the same comic book is a really cool thing. And it can also be a great opportunity to get exclusive merchandise made by those fans that you can't get anywhere else.
I think on a small scale, you and I have gone, or I don't know if you've gone. Have you gone to a Super Smash Bros. Tournament before?
No, nothing like big.
No, but like, have you gone to like a high school one?
Oh, that's like the most, I've ever done.
Because I remember I went to one at a high school, and it was a pretty big event. I think you went to it as well. It was that LAN party that they did at the one high school that I used to live by.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't a convention, but just this idea of a bunch of gamers sort of like congregating together, and it was really cool because I would just walk up to some dude at a CRT and be like, yo, you want to play Melee? And he was like, hell yeah, dude. And then we plug it in, we just play video games. Like, it was so cool meeting all these like-minded people, especially because, I mean, you guys know it's high school, all right? You get caught with a 3DS and you're getting a swirly or some shit, you know what I mean? Like, it is
swirly. What is this, 1950?
But you get what I mean. Like, it's
people make fun of you. Yeah,
it's hard to find such a welcoming and warm environment. Like, I would never be able to, like, I couldn't, every Smash tournament I went to, I never felt ashamed to play Smash, because that was, everyone there thought it was so cool, and so did I. And so everyone's so accepting of each other, and everyone's so kind, because actually sometimes they're not kind, but who knows, we'll get to that. But I think you're right. That is one of the pros, is just being in this environment with a bunch of people who are there for the same reasons you are and are into the same things that you're into. That's huge. And it's different than being in a chat room because they're real.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually there. This is going to sound head ass, but I go into, for example, I'm in a Valorant looking for group server. So I can just find people to squad up with in the middle of the night. And yes, it is cool just meeting new people and shooting the shit with them about the game, but they're not real. It's a digitized voice through my headset. It's text on a screen. There's an inherent disconnect. But when you're in person with somebody, it is like you're there. It's real. It's reality. It's not curated.
Mm-hmm.
It's authentic, you know?
It's like whenever you and I go to like a movie once every like 4 years, and it's like, oh my god, it's Nolan. There he is.
Yeah.
I'd
say I don't feel that as much because I've met you before. I mean, and we have seen each other in real life many a time. So when I talk to you online, it actually feels like I'm talking to you, Nick, to the point where sometimes when you're talking to me, I will have an image of in my mind of you sitting at your desk physically talking.
I thought you were
into
about to
your
say you
microphone.
pull up a picture of me and just like look at it as if I'm speaking directly to you.
I don't have any photos of you.
There's no photos of me. I'm a hidden
Nick
boy.
does not want to reveal what he looks like online, and so even in photos that like I take for fun, I think I've always been pretty respectful.
Except for that one time. That was so dumb.
Can we talk about it?
I would love to talk about it. That's so funny.
So me and Nick used to, before we did this, we used to meet up in person and do a Let's Play together. It was called Gamer Boys. It was really cool, whatever. And when we
This
when
is the
we
first
would meet
day we met up to do it, by the way.
we were both really tired because I had work in the afternoon, and so I'd come over at like 7:30, or it was like 8:30. We would both be dead tired, running off of like energy drinks, and we'd record, and then I'd go to work. And I remember I got there, and my mom was like, "Hey, I'll be coming around later. Do you want me to pick you up and drive you to work?" And I thought, that's great. And so I was like, "Hey, Nick, can I text her your address?" He gives me his address, and I copy and paste it from his message into my Discord server for some reason because I had like a brain fart, and then I sent it, and I immediately was like, whoa, wait a minute, and I deleted it. I don't think anyone saw it because, I mean, and it was an out of context message too. Like there was I didn't say Nick's address.
No,
like,
it
I
was
just
the address on its own.
and it was there for maybe 3 seconds, but it was, it's not my proudest
so
moment.
So funny.
I was like, I hate having brain farts because I always feel like such an idiot, but that was one of my worst. A really bad one I had this past weekend was we were going out for a friend's birthday, me and my girlfriend, and she had bought a card and got me to sign it. And I just like saying, "Happy birthday from Nolan." Keep it simple. I had a little bit of tequila before I started writing, and I spelt birthday wrong 3 separate times.
Oh my god.
And I felt so fucking stupid by the end of it because it was just like, God, how do you mess that up? And I had somewhat of an excuse, but yeah, it was just, I hate having brain farts. Or we've talked about I'm like slightly dyslexic because I'll read the word untie as unite for some reason. Like I just get it jumbled in my head. And for ages when I was playing Far Cry 4, I would go to untie somebody and it would say, and I thought it would say unite. And I'm like, that's a weird way of using it, but maybe we're uniting the people in the rebellion. Like, I don't know. And so rather than question my eyes, I've exalted them with this fucking trust that they can never be wrong. And I just question the game instead. Yeah, I think for me, some of the pros of going to a convention now would be that we would get to meet people. I would love to go to a convention and meet a viewer, meet somebody who watches my videos, and I would love to meet other YouTubers. Like, you know how cool it would be to run into, I don't know, like Joseph Anderson at a convention? I would go up to him and I would be like, "You have been such an inspiration for me." Like, I'd be like, "I love your videos, dude." And he'd probably be like, "Thank you," and then walk away. But it would still be cool to just sort of like meet your idol kind of thing.
Yeah.
I guess the cons of it now, though, is COVID has turned conventions into a biohazard.
Oh, yeah. Straight
Anime
up
Expo
Resident
was-
Evil warfare.
It was bad. And I would not want to go to a convention now because until COVID gets a little more under control, and as of recording this, it's like, yes, we have our vaccines and people aren't dying from COVID as much, I don't think. but people are still getting it at like a super high rate.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I don't want to get it because I have an immunocompromised family member, and because I haven't caught it in the last almost 3 years now. And I'm thinking, son of a bitch, I'm not catching it now. I've gone too long at this point. I got to keep the streak going.
Just don't even want to catch it in general. Even if you,
I don't want to.
Even if you just get it, there's a chance you can get long-term effects. One of my friends has long-term COVID.
Really?
Yeah.
And so is his lung capacity just shot?
Yeah, he like gets tired super easily. Some days he's just like exhausted, can't do anything. He describes it as like some days he's just like a zombie.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been lucky to have not caught it yet.
I've got it.
Which is And actually, let's talk about that thing I was talking about earlier. I don't like this new mindset of, because COVID is not as bad anymore, it seems that there's like a weird shift where people now care more about COVID than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And a thing I often hear people saying is, somebody will go out even if they're sick, but then they'll say, oh, it's not COVID, I've been tested. And my first thought is always, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why would you go out if you've been puking all morning just because it's not COVID? Like, stay home. And there's so many people that think, oh, well, I have this awful flu where my eyes are bleeding and I'm puking, but don't worry, guys, it's not COVID. So yeah, I'll come to this party tonight. And it's as if because they don't have COVID, people just don't give a shit about other people anymore. And I think it's so fucking inconsiderate. And this is not a dig at people who are in financial situations where they can't afford to stay home, or if your job is you going into an office and you're in your own separate room and you don't have to talk to anybody, yeah, that's fine. Like, I get it. But especially if you're doing something like retail, or if you're seeing the public, if you're working with the public, I think, yeah, if you're sick, you should stay home. It's really shitty to not stay home if you can.
It's bad for yourself, and it's also bad for other people.
Yeah. And again, I understand that if you're sick, you still have to get stuff done. Even when I've been sick, I've gone out because, I got to hand in a paper or something like that. There's some exceptions, but just a general rule of thumb, I see a lot of people just not caring about anything that's not COVID. And I think that's really stupid, because even if you're a COVID denier, the common cold still exists. Like, I don't want to catch the common cold, because I'm one of those people where illnesses hit me really hard. If I get sick, I'm hard and fast recovery. Like, if I get hit with the common cold, I'm like bedridden for 2 days and then I'm chill. And there's some people who will get the common cold for like 3 weeks, but they have like sniffles and that's it. But I'm just saying, for people like myself, I don't want to get sick at all. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's COVID, common cold, flu, even like food poisoning or something like that. Like, I don't want to get anything bad. So stop being assholes. And I bet you there's plenty of people who have gone to conventions saying, oh, well, I don't have COVID, I'm just a little sick. What? Anyways. So because of COVID, and because conventions were very unsafe for a while. I mean, they're happening now, and yeah, there's high risk when you go in there. But before, it was, actually it was against the law to host conventions for a bit. So what a lot of companies did to remedy this is they started doing online shows. And I want to ask you, Nick, how do you feel about those online shows? Do you think they're better or worse than the in-person equivalent?
I think it's a case-by-case basis. There are two distinct lines for this whole convention conversation, in my opinion. There's things like there's conventions surrounding media that is being hosted by fans or whatever. You got your stuff like Anime Expo, even like stuff like Comic-Con to an extent.
Yeah.
Which, while a professional business, benefits a lot from being there in person.
Yeah, because, I mean, cosplay for things like that are huge.
There's cosplay, there's just artists trying to sell their work. That's a huge thing for them.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's just a great community-driven thing where you get to meet like-minded people.
Yeah, it thrives on being in person.
Mm-hmm. But then you get something like E3. And while I said I've always wanted to go to E3, over the years, it's been becoming a lot less relevant. Because E3 is almost exclusively reserved for, like, the big companies, right? Like, trying to
like
announce new projects.
Yeah. And to be fair, that is a lot of what people are there for. Even as a kid, I would only tune into E3 to see what's announced.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You said tuned into E3. Because nowadays, that stuff always online. They always
yeah.
stream E3. They've been doing it for years. And back in something like the 90s, E3, I can see it easily being justified.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
But nowadays, in the streaming era where anyone can see anything, it's been becoming a lot less, I want to say, unique. Because nowadays, we have stuff like Nintendo Direct. We have State of Play. We have the Microsoft Showcase. I think they still do stuff with E3. I know Sony hasn't done it for a few years at this point. And Nintendo hasn't done it in a long time. It's always just been a Nintendo Direct. And all these companies are slowly breaking away from the, I guess for a lack of a better term, the E3 shackles, that they just stream their stuff. It saves them money, and people are guaranteed to watch it anyways. So in the context of, like, announcing stuff, E3, the physical space, it doesn't really exist much anymore.
It seems like E3 is more of a cleanup crew. Here's everything that didn't get announced at the State of Play, the Microsoft Forward, Nintendo Direct. And, I mean, that leads into, we're kind of tackling two questions at once here, but this idea of every developer or publisher has a showcase. Mm-hmm. You have Nintendo Direct, you have the Microsoft Showcase, whatever it's called, you have Sony, you have, Ubisoft did a specific show for Skull and Bones, which, by the way, looks like shit. And it's almost nullifying E3, because what are you going to go to E3 for? They're not announcing anything. So I really don't know why you would go there. And imagine if Nintendo Directs became a show. Like, you go to Nintendo of America's venue to go watch Nintendo things live. I don't see that happening, but it's just, you don't need E3 anymore.
Yeah, I know the last few years Sony was there. They would only have like 4 games or something.
Mm-hmm.
And they tried to do something, like they tried to spice it up, make the events more lively. Like when they showed off a trailer for The Last of Us 2, they brought some of the press into a tent that was modeled to look like the one featured in the game's cutscene that they showed.
Yeah, you're mentioning this earlier.
I was mentioning this a couple days ago to you. And they had some guy play the theme on a guitar or whatever.
I thought you said it was a banjo.
It was on whatever the fuck instrument it was. I just thought it was a banjo because they're in Texas or some shit. And, like, I guess that's kind of cool. Like, for Ghost of Tsushima, they had a guy play the pan flute, I think. I think that was it. They had him play something. And that was kind of cool, I guess. But at the end of the day, people are only there to see the games, right?
Yeah.
So it feels like the diminishing returns question comes up a lot. Like, how much money are you putting into this? And how much of that is like a loss to you? And I feel as though Sony kind of recognized that the E3 ship has sailed and that we should just stream it. Yeah. I know when the PlayStation 5 announcement happened, that wasn't an E3 thing at all. That was all just that was all a stream. But I get that people would say that, oh, it's because of COVID or whatever, and I don't really think that's the case.
I think COVID accelerated it. Like COVID acted as a catalyst and just pushed things along their natural path a little bit faster. I think because of Nintendo Directs and whatnot, yeah, Sony would have eventually done it, and many other developers. Because I mean, hype for a game doesn't come from a convention anymore. It comes from Twitter. It comes from these major news outlets like Kotaku and Polygon, which are going to report on it no matter what. Especially hype culture nowadays. You don't even have to show gameplay. You could show in a silhouette of Ellie from The Last of Us, and the internet's going to go insane. Like, it is... You don't need... What is it, Jeff Keighley, the guy who does Summer Games Fest?
Yeah, that's the guy.
You don't need him to be like, okay, guys, we're doing Last of Us 3 now. Here's a brand... You don't need that. You need some random Reddit account to be like, hey, I got a leak for The Last of Us 3. Check out this image. And it's some, like, Roblox shit. And half the fucking articles are still going to pick it up anyways.
And honestly...
These outlets, by the way, are literally writing articles on games that are not out. Think about... We talked about this the other day. That GTA 6 leaked videos that YouTubers have been posting, that genre of YouTube video is older than a majority of the Grand Theft Auto 5 updates.
Yep.
Like... And there's been no information on GTA 6 until, like, a few months ago.
And they only just said that they're working on it.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Saved You a Click Video Games as a Twitter account?
Yeah.
And the entire point of it is to just explain what an article is in one sentence. And the idea is like to counteract clickbait, because what these articles will do is they'll say GTA 6 might be coming in 2023. Here's everything we know. And then the article will be GTA 5 was a very popular game and blah, 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 blah. GTA 5 for 4 paragraphs. And then it will say, we haven't heard anything on GTA 6 yet, but fans are still speculating that we might hear something about it from 2023, maybe even a release date. And it's like, so you don't even need to announce anything, and these articles are going to go insane. I mean, fans go wild over EA. They went wild over EA re-trademarking or like renewing the copyright or whatever for the Skate name. And they're like, oh, does this mean a new Skate game's coming out? And it's like, that was in 2015 or some shit. And yeah, retrospect, yeah, Skate 4 is happening. We can talk about that later. Kill me. But it's, you don't need an award show anymore is the point I'm trying to say. Hype is so easy to stir up if you're a big name developer.
And it's funny. I honestly find the prospect of a trailer just being uploaded without any sort of fanfare to be way more exciting.
Oh yeah, I think it's cool as hell.
Because when you're in the venue, you're expecting something kind of big, but if you're just on YouTube and then Sony suddenly goes Spider-Man 2 announcement trailer here, it's just like, whoa, really? Like, it's way more shocking, and I think adds to it.
Yeah, and this actually goes well with the music industry. Like, I find the most hype album releases are always the ones that are surprise. I think Beyonce does this a lot. She'll just drop an album. She doesn't announce it. A lot of and that's because, now granted, that's a different thing with the music industry where labels say you have to get a certain amount of social media likes before you can release an album.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I find the most enjoyable releases, and this even comes for YouTubers as well, is just dropping something. Hey, here it is. And not revealing anything until you're ready.
Dude, that day when I woke up and YMS uploaded his Lion King 2019 Part 1, that was huge.
Except he did kind of hype it up, because he said, yeah, it'll be done next month for like 2 years or something.
Yeah, but no one ever expected it would actually be done.
Yeah, me neither. I gave up. I was like, yeah, it's not coming out, whatever. But yeah, I agree. I think, by the way, one of the issues with cons that we didn't talk about was, or we mentioned it, but I really want to restate it. The smell would be horrendous.
Mm-hmm.
Because even from my short time in this Super Smash Bros. Competitive scene, some of the tournaments I went to smelled awful. And it was truly like you'd shake hands with somebody and you'd like wipe your hand on your pant leg. You know what I mean? You're like, ugh.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just, it was just like really sweaty and gross. And we joke about it a lot, but I really think if you're going to host a video game tournament, you should have deodorant checks at the door.
Oh, I'm pretty sure one of the Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments, I think they do that now.
Do they actually?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there is a rule. It's like if your opponent smells too bad, that's immediate disqualification.
Yeah, I just don't know how people can like leave the house without showering. And I mean, I get it. Sometimes you may not smell it. Like I've there are times where I will, in years prior, I finished a workout and I thought like, oh, I don't smell myself, like I'm probably okay. And my friend will be like, no, dude, you should go take a shower. Like, it happens. But if you're going to an event or something like that, I don't know, do people just like not, how do I put it? They don't touch themselves up. Like if I'm going out for, every time we go see a movie, I have cologne that I never use. I always put cologne on if I'm going out with somebody. Like if it's a friend, Melanie, if I'm going to, when I went to tournaments, like you always want to look good if you're going to something like that, or smell good. And maybe that's just me being like a metrosexual or something, but that is like, yeah, I think that's really important. And I don't know how people just don't put deodorant on or how people just don't brush their teeth. It's insane to me. So there's one more issue that we want to talk about with cons, and this has its own section because I think we could get a lot of mileage out of this. And I think this is something that is overlooked a lot, is cons and traveling to conventions cost money.
Oh, yeah.
And unfortunately, when you are a youngin', you might get caught up in the idea of meeting your idols so much so that you end up spending too much money or spending money you don't have to go meet them. And not only will you be disappointed because you're not going to get this like dream fantasy of, oh my God, I met X YouTuber at con and now we're sleeping in the same hotel bed or some shit. You're going to be looking at a lot of cash. And the reason I know this is a problem is because a lot of people don't realize how expensive it is. and they don't learn until they go on a trip to a convention. For example, there was this Twitter personality I saw, and I don't know the full story, so I'm not going to get too far into it. But what I was able to glean from some of the cryptic tweets was that this lady had gone on a trip with another person, and they said that they would split all the costs of the trip, but the guy was going to pay for it, and she was just going to hit him back after or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the two of them together racked up $6,000 going on the trip.
Oh my god.
And they were both like, we don't know how this happened. We have no money to get home. And the problem with this is that we don't know what they actually spent their money on. And people are joking, saying that they were buying like dream hoodies or something like that. But it really does cost a lot. I think about when my girlfriend and we went to go stay somewhere in like farther into British Columbia. We went and we stayed for 5 days. And we easily, excluding the hotel, we spent like a couple $100 up there because we bought groceries. We went out for dinner. We just, and obviously if you're going on a trip, like, you don't have to live super tight, but even then though, I'm thinking we were gone for, I think it was 5-6 days maybe. And I think our total, excluding the hotel, was like $800. And that's like a highball estimate.
Yeah. It's super easy to rack up money.
But here's the thing. That was $800, and we weren't keeping track of our money. And so the idea of somebody spending $6,000 is like, how? Because I'm saying $800 between the two of us. Like, and to me, I thought that was a shitload of money, to be honest with you. But I mean, again, this is like a highball estimate, and I think we ate out 3 times on the trip. But yeah, I just have no idea how that happens. And for a more personal story, I knew someone at my old job who, I didn't know him too well, but I walked up to him because he had a Twitch beanie on. And I was like, yo, are you a streamer or something? He was like, yeah, dude, I stream. I was like, oh, that's sick. And during the time that we were kind of shooting the shit, I think it was PAX West had just happened. And I was asking him, I was like, yeah, have you ever been to a convention? He was like, yeah, I went 2 years ago. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And he was telling me that he saw some cool games, saw some cool YouTubers, and that it was like a fun road trip with him and his friends. And so then I'm like, or maybe it was a year ago. It was like a year or two ago. And then a few days later, I'm talking to him, and I was like, oh, man, I hate that I get a nice big paycheck, and all of it goes to my tuition. And he's like, I feel you, man. I'm still paying off my credit card debt. And I was like, oh, really? And he's like, yeah, it's from that convention I went to. I thought, huh? You're still in debt? And he said that he racked up like $3,000.
Oh my god.
I was thinking, dude, how do you spend that much fucking money? And keep in mind, this is a few years ago. Gas wasn't like double the price like it is right now. Like, this guy took a road trip to PAX West and spent $3,000 and hadn't paid it off. And I'm thinking, I understand, create those memories with your friends. Like, I think, going to a convention is on the bucket list. I'd like to do it at some point. But if you're not financially capable of doing so, that's why I would only go to a convention if it was in the States or something like that, because I'm not flying to go to a convention. At that point, that's too much money for me. I don't want to spend a ton. And truthfully, I think going to a convention, we don't have to break the bank to do that. Like, if we buy our own food and not like eat out every day, and as long as we don't buy extravagant amounts of dream merchandise, we'll be okay.
Gonna have to hold me back, bro.
But I just find that so strange that people spend so much money. I'm not trying to hate on that guy, by the way. I mean, that's his own decisions. But what I'm saying is that I think a lot of people underestimate the amount of money that you can rack up when you're not keeping track of it. And I mean, I've known that personally. When I was much younger in my teenage years, I used to get a $400 paycheck from work for every 2 weeks or whatever. And then after like 5 days, I'd be like, wow, so where'd my money go? And then you look at it and you're like, oh, McDonald's, GameStop, and like you'd see that it's easy to spend money, which I find ironic now, because now as an adult I make more money but I spend less money, and that's including the 50% of my expenses, which are just like V-Bucks and Valorant skins.
Stop.
I was actually going to tell you, sorry, we're getting sidetracked, but I'm going to cancel my Fortnite Crew subscription.
You told me this so long ago. You still haven't done it?
No, I was never planning on it.
You told me like last time we played Fortnite.
Oh, maybe I said I was thinking about it, but now I'm like definitively going to do it, because I haven't played Fortnite in like a week and a bit, and I know I'm not going to finish the battle pass, so I think I'm going to stop paying for it. But point being, It's when you're not keeping track, and when you're a kid, especially, like if you're a teenager or something. I say this as if we're so old and we have so much experience, but I mean, even in the short few years between myself now at 21 and at 18, like I'm so much better with my money now. And I think you just become more conscious of your money because you have enough moments in your teen years where you're like, wow, I spent a lot of money without realizing it. And eventually you figure it out. And I thought that's an interesting point to bring up. And it's a trap that I think some people can fall into. What do you think?
Oh yeah, it's like that's just a thing in general where it can be really easy to spend money. But at like a convention, I can see why that's like a bigger issue because you're only there for so many days. Mm-hmm. It's like you don't want to. It's the fear of missing out, right?
Yep.
Like you don't want to run to a position where it's like, oh man, I'm never gonna be able to like get this thing like again, or at the very least, like I will be able to get it at this price or blah blah blah. So people will just like panic buy it or whatever. And even if they do actually want it. Yeah, like, obviously they do want it.
Mm-hmm.
But it can be very easy to get swept up in the whole thing and rack up $3,000 in credit card debt.
Yeah, and that to me is scary. Just the idea of... That's like some people are just comfortable being in debt.
That's crazy.
Like, I'll get $100 on my credit card and I'll be like frantically transferring the money so I pay it off.
And your limit's like $1,000 or something.
Yeah, my limit's like... Yeah, I think it is. I think it's $2,000.
And you freak out over $100.
Well, because I don't like being in debt. I don't like seeing minus whatever in my bank account. You know what I mean?
That's how you build credit, dude.
I know that's how you build credit, and that's why I deal with it. But ideally, I hate being in debt. Or that's like, I'm not going to say who, but I know a guy, and he was mentioning they just hadn't done his taxes from 2021 or 2022. Or sorry, 2020 and 2021.
Insane.
I was like, and you know they were due like 2 weeks ago, right? He's like, don't worry about it.
You should stop worrying about it.
This person still hasn't done it, and I'm just thinking like, how are you chill with this?
That's horrible.
The two things you can't avoid in life, death and taxes, and this guy's just like, yeah, we're fine.
He's about to get fucking both slammed on him by Mr. Trudeau.
I know, but anyways, here's a question to move on. What's the best convention you think is out right now? And this is let's widen the scope to also any online things like Nintendo Direct or something like that.
The one I see the most like buzz about, I guess it's just because of the people we are. I always hear people talking about too many games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A lot of people go there, like YouTubers, just people in general. I think it's in Pennsylvania or something.
Yeah.
Like, whenever it comes around, a lot of people end up going. And I think I would like to go there at some point.
I mean, I can think of somebody who would go with you. I don't know.
Yeah, but I would love to go to like something like Too Many Games. I hear great things about it, and it would be kind of cool to go at some point in my life.
Yeah, I'm kind of in agreement. I agree with your answer entirely. There was one last thing I forgot to mention about debt. And that is, what would you do if some guy comes up to you, like, let's say it's like some 16-year-old kid, right? And he's like, oh, Nams Compendium, dude, I love your videos. You're such an inspiration for me. I came all the way out here just to see you. And then he's like, I spent the last of my money and I'm $1,000 in debt on the credit card just so I could come see you, bro. I love you. How would you feel?
I would ask if he's joking. That doesn't sound real.
And what if he's legit?
Like, if he's like dead serious and it actually happened?
What do you do?
I don't know how I would feel. I would say thanks, man, and I would avoid that spot for the rest of my life.
Really?
I don't know what I would do. What would you do?
I'd fucking put my hand on his shoulder. I'd look at him and be like, hey, look at me. Don't do that.
Yeah, but then you're gonna get canceled for looking like a weirdo.
No, I don't care, because this is the thing. People think it's rude to tell your viewers like don't do something, but I think you gotta lay down boundaries. There's some for example. There's this one gentleman who I will not name, and this was like a few months ago, but he had told me, he was like, I'm sorry, Aqua, I can't support you on Patreon because, you know, money's tight right now, and I only just got my job. He was saying that he's 16, he only just got his job, and he's like, you know, but the moment I have a spare $5, I'll give it to you. And I got so fucking serious, I was like, don't do that. Don't give... Please. One, don't tell me. I don't want to know. But if you do tell me, don't give me money. I don't need your money, okay? Patreon is important for, creating some sort of sustainability in case YouTube goes belly up. And yes, I want people to support me if they can. But if it is your last $5, don't be a fucking idiot, okay? Don't be stupid. I don't need it. If you only have $5 left over and you've been busting your ass, spend it on yourself or save it. Preferably save it. But if you're gonna get rid of it and you're already in your head, you're gonna get rid of it, just give it to yourself, please. Are there any changes you would like to see to a convention that would make them better for you? The first one I can think about is put a limit on the amount of people in.
Yeah, capacity limit.
Yeah, capacity limit would be huge. Not only for COVID and sickness, but just like I've seen videos of conventions and it's a sea of people. And I understand that, yeah, then you get into an issue of, the convention's got to make money. But at the same time, I do think that capacity limits would be helpful.
Yeah,
and then you can just give VIP passes to like creators or people with panels or whatever. And give VIP passes to us.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
When we go to VidCon.
When's VidCon?
I don't know.
You want to go to VidCon? No. If we're going to go to a convention, we got to go too many games.
Yeah, we got to go to too many games.
Okay.
The thing about the capacity limit is that people rent out buildings thinking that there's going to be a smaller turnout than what actually happens. But as it turns out, it ends up dwarfing their expectations to the point where people are just like spilling out of the building. Like you can't even enter.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what could be there to prevent that, because if there is a capacity limit, like they can't just make it so that they limit it to only getting enough to make the money back.
Actually, and a pretty bad side effect that could come from that was, do you remember TanaCon?
Oh yeah,
they had a capacity limit, and people were waiting outside for hours in the blistering heat.
People got heat stroke.
Yeah, but I don't know if that was capacity limit or if that was because of some mismanagement, because that seemed like a shit show.
I think it was like the building was too small.
Oh no, but people bought tickets. I think that's what it was. Or was, I don't know. The point is, maybe you could have an issue like that where people are like, oh, we'll wait. And then they get heat stroke because they're waiting so long.
Yeah, and then they actually shrivel up and die.
Yeah, they actually shrivel up like SpongeBob and Patrick when they're at Shell City.
Yeah, at the end of the SpongeBob movie.
Yeah, and they get the light shined on them.
We're Goofy Goober now.
Well, you got something to say or what?
Anyways, yeah, conventions are kind of cool, I guess. There's a couple I would want to go to, that's for sure.
Yeah, too many games, PAX, and I guess VidCon would be kind of cool.
Yeah, and I guess if I could travel back in time to E3, just so I can see that old E3, so I can see when the guy at Sony, after the Sega Saturn got its price announced, he just walked on stage and just said that their price was lower, and then he walked off.
Oh my god, what convention was your breathtaking from?
Oh, that was E3, I'm pretty sure.
Oh my god, could you imagine being in the crowd for that?
Yeah, doesn't that guy like only live off of that like fleeting fame though?
Yep, he's the breathtaking guy.
That's all he is. Like that guy, he sees someone say the phrase breathtaking and he always thinks they're talking about him. It's kind of sad.
I mean, that's kind of what you and me do. Anytime I see
is
somebody,
that a reference to me?
Yeah, anytime I see somebody talking about Assassin's Creed, I'm like, oh, they must be talking about me. Ha ha. That's not true. I'm kidding. Although, actually, funny enough, I was looking at I think it was a Grand Theft Auto subreddit, and I was reading this post about a guy who initially didn't like Grand Theft Auto, but then went back to it. And in the post, the reason he went back to it was because he's like, it was because that boy Aqua made an excellent video on Grand Theft Auto 5. I was like, huh? And I have no idea who he's talking about. I don't know who made the big video. And then I was thinking, and so I just made this connection like a few hours ago because I was reading my comments and somebody said I sound just like Luke Stevens, which I don't see the resemblance.
Oh, I don't see it.
I think maybe in the, I guess like the tone of our voice, maybe it's different, but I think we also have very different ways, like ebbs and flows in our speaking patterns. I'm thinking, what if he's the guy who made the GTA 5 video? He made a GTA 5 video 5 months ago. So maybe he's the guy and they got it confused. Also, some guy commented saying, hey, I loved you in General Sam's videos. And I think there are people who think that I am Aqua FPS.
Can you just say thanks like that's all you do?
That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to
just
be
say
like,
that you're
yo,
everyone.
Straight. Well, I'm so happy that finally the white light comparisons have stopped. Back when my channel first started, there was a running gag that I was a discount white light. And I don't know where that came from because we don't sound anything alike. His production value is much better than mine, and his videos are far better written than mine. But for some reason, that was a thing. And I guess now the new one is now I'm a Luke Stevens ripoff. Hey, wait a minute. Wasn't there some guy who thought that you were Marsh?
Oh, yeah. I was on Adam's live stream, and like 4 people just thought I was Marsh, and I have no idea why. We don't sound anything alike at all. There was another Reddit comment. Some guy said that I inspired him to make a Persona 4 challenge run based off my own challenge run. And I'm sitting here like, I never did that. Like, you're thinking of someone else, bro.
But I don't want to shoot him down, though. Like, I appreciate the compliment. Because I think, yeah, whenever I get comments like that, I just don't respond. Because I don't want to make him feel stupid. Like, there was this guy who said, yo, Aqua, I would love it if you made a video on Assassin's Creed 1. And I responded and said, lol, I already made that video like a year and a bit ago. And then they just responded with, oh, ... I'm like, oh, did I, like, maybe they read it as me, like, shaming them for not knowing. So I don't know. Actually, the thing that pissed me off the most is the amount of comments I've gotten asking me to do a Mirror's Edge Catalyst video. Because that video famously flopped on my channel a year ago. And people are like, yeah, bro, make a Catalyst video. And I've already fucking did it. Oh, I hate it. Anyways, that's all I have to say about conventions. And a million other things.
Yeah, so tomorrow we're gonna book our tickets, go to Pennsylvania, and stake out till they reopen too many games.
Yeah, we're gonna sit there early. We're gonna get our first tickets. We're gonna get heat stroke.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to die in each other's arms.
We're gonna rack up $100,000 in debt
in the first day.
In the first day.
I'm gonna buy my dream hoodie.
Anyways, thank you once again to everyone for tuning in, and we can't wait to post more episodes. Sorry about the delay. That was mostly on my end. I've been very busy, so hopefully we can get more out soon.
Yes, thank you.
Once again, thank you so much for listening, and have a great day.
Yes, have a good one.